All right, and welcome to Locked On Live, a Locked On Hornets edition. I'm one of the hosts of Locked On Hornets, Doug Branson, and I'm joined today via Zoom teleconferencing technology by my co-host on Locked On Hornets, Walker Mail. Hello, Walker.
Hey, Doug, how are you doing today? I'm excited to watch the Milwaukee Bucks and Hornets series.
All right, and welcome to Locked On Live. I've got Hornets edition.
I'm with some technical difficulties.
Well, yeah, listen, we can't start one of these lives without some technical difficulties. There we go. I cut off the audio from the actual live stream, so we're not getting us double. But it's good to know that we actually have audio for this one this time. Yes, we will be watching the 2001 playoffs, Milwaukee versus Charlotte. If you're a Hornets fan, you may know this as the closest the Hornets ever came to making an Eastern Conference Finals. It was very exciting times in Charlotte during that 2001 playoff series. We're actually going to watch this YouTube video here. It's a compilation of the fourth quarters of games 4 through 6. So we're going to dive into a lot of the history behind this playoff series and then what happened during it. I'm also joined by David Walker, my co-host on Let the Boys Watch, which you can listen to on our Patreon page, patreon.com/LOH. Hello, David.
Doug and Walker, great to be back. Yeah, Doug, we need to get back on that and talk about all the stuff we're binging right now.
That's true. I just watched the pilot of Tiger King. I don't know. I'm sure. You know why I did it? I didn't want to, honestly. I was forced into it.
I knew you wouldn't want to.
And it was not, normally if people force me into watching something on Netflix, it's because one person is just like hammering away at me, say, you got to watch Tiger King. You have to watch Tiger King. This was literally the entire culture. Like, it seems like everyone, I'm like, I might as well watch it. I'm going to be consumed by it anyway. So I might as well just bow down to Tiger King. So now I'm watching it. I watched the pilot.
Yeah, I never give in to any kind of binge-worthy show that is circulating on social media, begging everyone to watch it, and I did. I'm glad I did, though. I binged the hell out of it, man. I started at like 1, got through it, was done about 7:30 or so, the 45-minute episodes that they are, 7 episodes, flew through it all in one day. And it was amazing from the beginning to the end.
How did you feel afterwards? Did you feel tired? Did you feel excited? Did you feel melancholy?
I stared at the black screen for about 15 minutes afterwards, trying to comprehend what I had seen. But
when you stare at a blank screen, it's actually you looking back at you.
Mm-hmm. It was a real inception moment for me after watching all of that.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us here on Locked On Live. We will get into this rewatch of the 2001 playoff series between the Milwaukee Bucks and Charlotte Hornets. The fourth quarters, we'll be watching a compilation of fourth quarter action from games 4 through 6. But before we do that, we need to set the scene because it's been a while. I mean, it's been almost 20 years since this series took place. And I want to kind of dive back into some of the statistics from this Charlotte Hornets roster and from this series up to this point, because we're going to start with Game 4, so we have to figure out what happened in Games 1 through 3. First things first, let's talk about this roster. So the 2000-2001 Charlotte Hornets were coached by Paul Silas. They had a record of 46-36. They finished third in the NBA's Central Division. They were in the Central Division at the time because they had not broken it out into 4 divisions at that point. And the roster, you had leading the way scoring-wise, Jamal Mashburn, who Walker is very down on for some reason. I don't know why. He rated him very low in his list of top 30 all-time Hornets.
You got mad because I rated David Wesley ahead of Mashburn. That's where we are here. And Mashburn played 2 years.
Okay, hold on. David, would you like to comment on that? That he rated David Wesley, who I respect. I respect the hell out of David Wesley, but that he ranked Jamal Mashburn below David Wesley.
Yeah, I respect everyone involved in this scenario, most of all Walker, but that is just blasphemy. That is insane.
We got to go with longevity at some point too, right? Like David averaged almost 18 points a game in this playoff series run, and he played 3 more years here with the Hornets. I stand by my David Wesley ranking. I stand by it, and I stand by it heavy.
I just got a notification on my Apple Watch to check my rings. The activity rings. This is a daily occurrence for me now. I don't know if anyone else is experiencing this in the quarantine. I'm doing a very bad job of staying active, and each day my watch reminds me that I haven't moved in many hours.
Are you doing anything to fix that? You have a lot of hobbies.
I'm taking
too.
off the watch. Yeah, I'm going to fix that by just turning off the watch.
There you go.
That's how you fix it.
Okay, let's get back to this Hornets team. I put the basketball reference page up on the live stream so we can kind of all take a look together. So Mashburn was leading the way in scoring, but then you had as well Baron Davis at the point guard position in his sophomore season. So he just got done with his rookie campaign. And then Eldon Campbell at center. You had Derek Coleman at power forward. His absence would play a big role in this final series for the Charlotte Hornets in 2001. Jamal McGlure in his rookie season. We've got Lee Nalon, the big cat. Lee Nalon in his rookie season as well. And then Hersey Hawkins. This is an interesting name here. Hersey Hawkins played with the Hornets in the mid-90s, 93 through 95, I believe. And then they brought him, this was his final season in the NBA, and the Charlotte Hornets bring him back, and he played about 11 to 12 minutes. So
6'3". I would have thought Hersey was definitely taller than 6'3".
See,
Dear
now,
God, he was born in 1966. Holy Lord.
Yeah, I actually thought he was smaller than 6'3". I mean, maybe
Really?
that's about right. Yeah, Hersey Hawkins. Hersey Hawkins always seemed like a little guy. Maybe it's because the Supersonics 90s team was always my go-to classic for the 2K games that we would play, and he just seemed like one of the smaller dudes out there on the court. So that's what I'm basing it on, as a video game character.
And then, of course, David Wesley on this team. But going back to Hersey real quick, if you go and watch his game and you know that he's 6'3", I made the comparison of Malik Monk to Hersey Hawkins, which people were like, wait a minute. But you go back and look at his game, it's very Malik Monkish.
So you hate him now. After watching Hersey Hawkins again, you're like, oh, you know what? I don't like Hersey Hawkins after you compared him to Malik Monk. Is that the take you arrived at?
Look at these great names on this roster right now that you don't remember. Eldridge Rakasner. Anyone remember Eldridge
That was the
Rakasner?
first name that I gravitated towards as well, looking at the roster and the stats. Rakasner is the first name I immediately looked.
Doug Overton.
Wow. Doug Overton. That is like the guy you got in the pack of basketball cards every time, but he was always in a New Jersey.
And then Otis Thorpe was actually one of the, it seems like.
Good Lord.
It seems like back in these old playoff series, you really got down to 7-8-man rotations, and Otis Thorpe made the 8-man rotation for the Charlotte Hornets in this series. So you're going to see a little bit of Otis Thorpe doing his thing.
That is just an amazing collection of NBA historical names right there. I mean, Otis Thorpe, Derek Coleman, Hersey Hawkins. Jeez.
All right, so that's your breakdown of who we're going to be watching here in the 2001 Charlotte Hornets versus Milwaukee Bucks Eastern Conference semifinals matchup. On the other side, you had the Milwaukee Bucks, who were featuring Ray Allen, young Ray Allen, and he was scorching hot. Glenn, the big dog Robinson. Sam Cassell played a big factor in, unfortunately, unseating the Hornets in this semifinals matchup, as well as Scott Williams, Darvin Ham, and then the reserves for the Milwaukee Bucks, Irvin Johnson, not Magic Johnson, just Irvin Johnson, Tim Thomas, Jason Caffey, and Lindsey Hunter, of a few players that didn't play in a couple of these games, at least game 4 I'm looking at here, Joel Prisbilla and Rafer Alston. So there you go.
Skip to Malou.
I didn't know Rafer Alston was on that team. That's the one that probably catches me by the biggest surprise.
All right. If we're ready, gentlemen, I think we've given enough context here on the 2000-2001 Charlotte Hornets. This would be the penultimate year for the original run of the Charlotte Hornets. They would do it one more time in Charlotte in 01-02. They would also reach this round in 01-02, where they would face the Jason Kidd-led New Jersey Nets, and the Nets put a beat down on them on their way to the NBA Finals that season. So this, again, we're rewatching fourth quarter games 4 through 6. Really the closest the Hornets have ever come. I really, watching this series, we can talk really quickly just about our memories of this series watching it. I remember watching this and going, this is it. I mean, I really thought this was the moment that the Charlotte Hornets always had been sort of a national franchise, but this was the moment where this team could finally get to the Eastern Conference Finals and be a legitimate finals contender.
Yeah, I felt like they had reached that pinnacle. Or go ahead, Walker. But they were finally a real team. Like to your point, had garnered enough respect around the league and looked like a real, NBA playoff team.
Well, it's crazy because we say that, and I started to look at the stats too. Like, they won 46 games this season. We're talking about this team being that contender. They were 46-36 this year, which is not the record of a team that you would say, hey, this is finally going to be the team that breaks through. Not even close when you look at that. But then you start to see them go up against the Milwaukee Bucks, and they take them to 7 games. And you look at that game 2, I believe the Hornets lost in overtime. And so that was certainly one that you look back in hindsight and think, okay, yeah, if they could have just squeezed that one out, then this would be a Hornets team going up against the Philadelphia 76ers, who are only led by AI. And yes, you had Dikembe. I mean, we can look, if you want to cape for Aaron McKee and all those guys, fine. It was a good enough team to make the Eastern Conference Finals. We get it. Point being to me was that Charlotte had a real chance to at least get to the NBA Finals. Nobody would have beaten the LA Lakers, right? I mean, they could have gotten swept. They could have won one game. Like, they weren't going to do anything like that. But in the Eastern Conference Finals, yeah, they had a shot to beat the Allen Iverson-led Sixers.
Yeah, I'm looking at what their record was in the season versus Philadelphia. They went 2-2 versus Philadelphia in the regular season. They went 3-1 against this Milwaukee team. So I do remember feeling confident that the Hornets could hang with the Milwaukee Bucks, who were seeded over the Charlotte Hornets in this series.
Yeah, 46 wins back then was really like 65 in today's NBA, though. You got to keep that in mind, guys.
That's true. They were basically the Warriors then. Yeah, 100%.
All right.
Okay, if you gentlemen are ready, we will sync our plays here so we're all watching at the same time. I've got the I need to turn the volume down a little bit so they can actually hear our microphones over this. Are you ready, gents?
Yes, I'm ready.
Indeed.
All right, in 3, 2, 1, play. All right, we pick right up in action. I believe that was Mashburn on the floater.
Yeah, this game is not going to help me with my Mash take because he is just awesome in this one. And
he is unbelievable.
He's really good in this game. So I'm going to look like an idiot based off this, I guess, 5 minutes of action we have in this game 4.
Now, you guys might not remember this, but headbands very in for this team during this playoff run. Everyone has a headband. And I believe, is Dell still on this? No, Dell's not still on this team. But there's some, when everyone goes to the headband look, it doesn't always work for each and every player. So keep that in mind.
And I feel like B. Diddy started it. I feel like B. Diddy started the headband, and then Eldon Campbell and Jamal Mashburn and David Wesley all picked it up. But the white headband with the white jerseys, I mean, just primo.
Well, they're thick. I feel like they're very thick headbands for these guys. And I don't know, man. The guys I don't think it works for. I'm not sure it works for Mash. I'm not sure it works for David Wesley. Those are the two guys I would say
David Wesley is the one that struggles with this. Now, funny story about the headband, guys. I did go to some of these playoff games. I'll have to go back and make sure this is the correct series. But during during one of these runs, they were filming Shallow Hal in Charlotte.
Yes.
You'll remember that movie.
Yes.
And at the time, Jack Black was not Jack Black, but I did know who that was. My brother and I recognized him. He sang the national anthem before one of these games wearing a white headband. That's how big they were.
Can we talk about a youngish, sveltish George Karl? Looking very well kept. Look at that.
Yeah, he does look good, and that's before the hair just completely goes away and turns white. Still, man, I mean, hell of a hairline right there from George Karl, but does look a lot younger.
I'm sure there were a lot of great, like, Carolina George Karl articles written
I watched
at the
it before
time.
we got on here, and yes, they were talking about George Karl discussing.
Oh, look at that step back. It didn't go in, but it was beautiful.
Yeah, Bob Costas was talking about George Karl maybe taking over that North Carolina job that had Matt Doherty at the time. That's what they were discussing. Yeah. And he said, I don't know if I want to take over the shoes that or fill the shoes of Dean Smith, because Matt Doherty certainly had not done that at this time. And Karl eventually wouldn't take that job, obviously, but that's what they were talking about.
Yeah, Bob Costas on the call for this one. I mean, this is
back when he did B-ball. All right, a little post-up action, but they're going to try to double. Oh, they got him in rotation. PJ, so huge for this team. One of the, I think, lost Hornets in my mind. People forget about PJ Brown and how good he was in this year.
People forget about Big Dog too, man. Glenn Robinson was a walking bucket. I mean, that guy could just score. It's somebody you don't hear mentioned a lot these days, but back in the day, man, Glenn Robinson, Big Dog, just a pure score.
I don't know if you guys are going to be pleased with PJ being 27th on my all-time Hornets list. Is that too low for PJ?
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that, actually.
Okay.
Let's remark on the court as well. It didn't have now they had gone away by this time from the honeycomb paint. area, but I love the swoosh, the butt swoosh, as I refer to it, the swoosh that comes out of Hugo's butt in the center of the court. I love that.
And I'm a fan of the basketball free throw line. I like this court better than the honeycomb.
And the gradient, you have the gradient 2-point area.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, this is my favorite court. I like this court better than the honeycomb court.
So this Bucks team had a lot of talent on it, man. I mean, Sam Cassell had a lot of experience. Like I said, Big Dog Glenn Robinson, Ray Allen, even Tim Thomas. I mean, that was a pretty stacked lineup they had.
I should mention we didn't tell people where the Hornets were in the series at this time. They were actually down 2-1. Milwaukee had won both of their games at home. Game 2 was really close, 1-point win, 91-90 over the Charlotte Hornets. So this was essentially a must-win for the Hornets as they go. They got a double-digit lead. Or nope, now Milwaukee is cut at 82-75 with 2:46 to go.
Yeah, that was a Tim Thomas 3. Man, Tim Thomas is quite the flashback name as well. I think he was on those good Suns teams and helped them quite a bit off the bench, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, look at that. Behind his head. What a pass there by, was that Diddy?
I think it was
Mashburn.
Diddy.
Was it?
Oh, it was Mash?
I think it was Diddy.
The headbands throw us off. It's tough.
That's true. Oh, no, there's Diddy. I think it was one of the bigs, actually.
Yeah, I mean, all of them.
That might have been. I mean, honestly, that might have been Eldon Campbell, which would have been amazing if Eldon Campbell just threw a behind his head pass underneath. Do you think that guys back then were better interior passers than they are now because they just played there so much?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know if I've ever really thought about that, but
yeah, that makes sense.
It would make sense because they just had a bunch of post-up opportunities,
bad pass,
and then
Mash.
you would think they would have to kick it out every once in a while.
Bad pass there by Mash. I think it was Eldon Campbell who threw that pass. I'm going to believe it now. Again, we're watching Game 4 here. The Hornets down 2-1 in this series.
That's a missed match.
Oh, nice steal. Ahead to...
That's a DW layup right there.
That was David Wesley. Beautiful.
Yeah, the headband over the ears for David Wesley.
Not working.
So the Hornets this season were actually a bad offensive team. They were 24th of 29 in points per game, 91.9, but they were the 4th best defensive team in this season, holding teams to 89.8 points per game, 4th out of the 29 NBA teams.
Well, I think if you look at the results of all the games that the Hornets won, they were under 100 points, and I believe that's right if you were to look at some of the box scores for them, and that was the kind of game that the Hornets played, the ones that they won. It was pretty low scoring.
24 turnovers in this game for Milwaukee. Not a recipe for success there, Bucks.
Not against a team that plays this good defense and then Mash. So, yeah, all you needed was Mash to score 30. And, I mean, you had already essentially had a third of your scoring average. Oh, good little double clutch there. Long arms of Mash. Man, the people and Hornets fans really just need to understand that Eldon Campbell was a good basketball player, and I have an Eldon Campbell beanie baby. People just need to understand that.
They need to understand that fact, yes.
Yeah, you're right, Walker. In the victories for the Charlotte Hornets, they held Milwaukee under 100 in all of them, and then Milwaukee scored over 100 in 3 of their 4 victories in this series.
I mean, this is the final 50 seconds of this game. Milwaukee has 75 points.
Yeah,
no wonder they lost this game.
Well, we're coming out of the late 90s basketball that was not known for its scoring prowess.
Ooh, boy.
How do we feel about
pull up. Okay.
No, not even close.
How different are these jerseys compared to ones previously? Because they're a little different, right? In the shade, I guess, of teal and purple. Maybe a little darker.
They're a little tweaked. You've got the piping down the outside of the shorts and the jerseys there, whereas the original ones and the throwback ones they use now are basically all white or all teal. So they added that, and then I believe they still have the pinstripes, though. I don't think the pinstripes extended to the shorts on these, but they're just a little like updated to the original ones.
So we're closing in on the end of Game 4 of this series. Mashburn is going to finish this game with 31 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and a block. An absolute monster game. He was 11 of 26 from the field. Did not hit a three-point shot in this game. The Hornets overall... No one did, really. No, the Hornets overall were 4 of 14.
Oh, let's watch this one next, baby.
Oh, my God.
Is that Vince
series,
and
yes.
Vince versus AI?
Oh, man. And that was the series that came down
to the graduation series, right?
Yeah, that was. It was. And then Vince Carter missed a baseline 3. That was it. I think that went the distance. Did it? I think it went. It was
7 games because I believe because it was back in Philly. Vince went to Chapel Hill that morning. That was a Sunday afternoon game. I remember that one.
And Dikembe, I believe, after the game said he looked at Vince's shot. He said he thought it was going in. Thought they were going.
It looked good.
Yeah.
I remember thinking to myself, Vince Carter's going to play for the next 40 years.
You were right. An excellent call.
And I was
an amazing
correct.
Call.
Yeah.
Series tied 2-2.
Okay, now this is where we messed up. Confetti. Okay, the series is tied 2-2. They're dropping confetti. What is going on, Charlotte?
That's true. You make a great point. All right, now we fast forward to Game 5. Again, about 5-6 minutes left. I love all this telestration, by the way. We need more of this in the NBA instead of them just crapping on the game all the time. Give us some X's and O's. Tell us what's going on. Oh, look at this little baseline.
Who's on the call
baseline
this
cut.
one? Is this Van Gundy? And I don't know who. I can't.
This was TBS at the time, so this might have been Harlan.
Oh, you know it is. Is it the Czar?
Oh, yes, you're right. Yep.
Fratello,
yeah, you can. Yeah, you can hear him.
And how about B Diddy with a 3 on an excellent pass out of the post?
That's a big dog bucket. So Hornets down what?
No, Hornets up right now, 92-86. A minute 50 to go. Baron Davis tries to split the double team, holds his dribble. David Wesley over to the wing to Mash one-on-one. This is his time. Very Jordan-esque. Turnaround jump shot. Doesn't go.
How about the all-black headbands, by the way? All of them.
All
black
shoes on the road, black headbands. Yeah, you don't see them as. I mean, they obviously don't pop as much.
Good board there by PJ. Mashburn holding the ball here. They got all the time
really
in the world.
Spread out.
I wonder what Eldon Campbell's three-point percentage
with
was.
The Hornets at the end of these games, guys.
Oh yeah, they're going to slow it down. I somehow I remember this team being better offensively than they were. My mind just wanted them to be better offensively.
I think we got an Eddie Robinson flash on the bench right there, who I also loved as a kid for no apparent reason, just liked him.
Ray Allen has literally not aged at all.
No, he hasn't, man. This was the year he was dunking on people. Ray Allen would absolutely dunk on you.
All right, now Mash is at the line here. Whoo, 24 points on 22 shot attempts there. 8 for 9.
Getting to the line, though. So during this season, Eldon Campbell played 78 games. He was 44% from the field. You don't love that out of your center, especially during these times. 13 points per game, but eight rebounds per game as well.
Missed the first one there.
There's Eddie.
You need to have that one. That's why Mashburn always gave you the feast or famine type feel. I mean, I think he was more productive than not, but like in these cases, you really needed 2.
Oh, jeez. I got 0.
Ooh, tough.
That's brutal. That's not how you win a playoff game on the road.
Paul Silas a little worried at this point. Oh, there was Lee Nalon.
DC.
Yeah, I was surprised. I remember Irvin Johnson playing in this game. There you go.
There they are. Yes, the Charlotte Hornets.
Where did I see Marv? Is he on Space Jam? He was on something, or maybe it was like a Dream Team retrospective, but that hair in one of these flashbacks is just whew. B Diddy. You guys remember the B Diddy dunk, right? When he dunked through his headband that had basically had 2 holes.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yes, okay. I do.
I didn't mention this, so we're doing this bracket of the 16 best moments in Charlotte Hornets history, and I didn't mention this during the episode with Rick Bonnell, but I think had B Diddy hit that dunk, that would be one of them, but he didn't. But if he did,
what the greatest moments you say?
yeah,
Is that your bracket?
Yeah, we're gonna do 16 top 16 best moments in Charlotte Hornets franchise history, and then bracket it up and see what wins.
Oh, that was an ugly turnover. By the way, I want to give credit to PJ Brown for staying in front of Ray Allen driving baseline. That was, PJ defensively. In the last game we watched in the last fourth quarter, had a couple of turnovers where guys were trying to pass to him in the post. So offensively wasn't the greatest, but how about defensively just coming up with the Cody Zeller plays, Doug?
Yeah, you can't find him in the box score. You can look, you can try, but you can't find him. By the way, Jamal Mashburn, his usage in this game, 36.3. That is enormous. The ball found him a lot.
Shout out to Lee Nalon, not dressed out, I don't think, but still wearing the black headband. So black headband and street clothes, I believe is what I saw on the bench there. That's a good teammate.
Yeah, Lee Nalon's like my favorite Hornet of all time who had one good year for us, and that was it. I think it was just one that he gave us that he was pretty productive, and that was the only productive year I think he had in the NBA.
Shout out Eddie Robinson off the bench in this game. You're not going to see him because we're in closing time right now, but he had double digits, 11 points, 5 rebounds on 4 of 9 shooting in this game. Huge. Pull up.
And this was actually a big win on the road here for the Hornets.
How about the giant purple?
Watching, but up 6.
How about these giant purple warm-ups that all of the bench players are wearing? They look like jammies.
Oh, Lindsay.
I love the serious looks on the bench. I love those cutaways in all the playoff series. Just everybody just like really locked in. This guy's not too worried.
Scott Williams.
No, he wasn't.
He's got his rings.
Eldon Campbell, I don't think, wanted to come to Charlotte. I'm pretty sure I have that history correct when he was traded. Derek Coleman. So we should mention Coleman here. Coleman, and you can go back and listen to our episode that we have with Rick Bonnell, the beat writer for the Charlotte Observer. But Coleman not playing in this series was a big deal. He gets injured, I believe, in Game 3. And goes to the locker room and just never comes out. And there's some disputed history on whether or not he could have played for the rest of this series. Part of Derek Coleman's long and troubled history in Charlotte.
In the playoffs, they're down by 8, 26 and 9/10 seconds to go.
And look at those shirts, too. The Bucks had some pretty wild logos in their day, especially in this time when everybody was experimenting and getting weird with their logos, the 90s logos. They had some pretty weird Bucks.
Just a full-on buck just plastered on the front of their jersey.
Like the kind you would find at Bass Pro or Cabela's. I mean, they just straight up put that on their jersey and said, let's rock it.
I love 90s logos and 90s jerseys.
Best. They're the absolute
And so
best.
we have some, even though this is 2001, we have some of them still leaking into the world. Oh, wow. Come on, PJ. Got to do a little better than that. And how do you miss that? 94-86, Charlotte up with 13 seconds to go. We'll get a foul here. Yeah, it's essentially ball game as Wesley gets fouled. So this is the moment I thought as a fan at the time, I was like, oh my God, they beat them in Milwaukee.
They're going to do it.
Game 5. And we should note how eerily similar this series is to the last series that the Charlotte Hornets played in the playoffs against Miami, where they went down 2 games. Now, the difference in the Miami series is that Miami blew Charlotte out in those 2 games in 16. And whereas the Hornets in this series lost Game 2 very closely, but you're down 0-2, and then you win the next 3, and then everybody thinks you're going to win the series. And unfortunately, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think people would mostly consider the golden era of Charlotte basketball with Zoe, LJ, and Muggsy, and they were certainly they were in the more national spotlight then because of some of the guys they had, and they were better players, right? Like Zoe and even Larry at that time, better players than any player that was on this.
Yeah, you had more Hall of Famers
that got the Hornets the closest, as we mentioned. And if you were to say what is the golden era, right? I mean, you might have to say, who got them the closest, and maybe because you had to go up against better teams, right? Like going up against Michael, battling against Patrick Ewing and the Knicks. You had some stars that you were battling then, but this was a team that was great, man. I loved watching this team as a kid.
And really constructed via trade, right, Doug? Fact check me on that. But I mean, obviously, Baron Davis was the draft pick that stuck with him, but it seems like everyone else was acquired via moves, on the trading block.
So PJ came over from Miami. The one, I think David Wesley, was he trade or was he free agent? Because I know he played for the Celtics, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to think of the way that they got him.
I'll look it up.
There you go. But David Wesley was not an original Hornet, right? Like, they didn't draft him. They drafted Baron Davis. They didn't draft Jamal. They didn't draft Belden. They didn't draft PJ. Yeah, I mean, all the guys that really contributed were acquired.
Shout out Bob Bass.
Yeah, Bob Bass.
Yeah. I believe Eddie Robinson was the draft pick. DC, obviously not. Oh, Jimmy Goldstein, what up?
Look at that hat. Oh, my God. That hat's amazing.
What is it? Oh, the bee. I get it. I get it. The Hornets
Angriest
bee.
buck I've ever seen. Oh, the blimp. I miss the old Hornets blimp that would fly around the Coliseum.
Yeah, didn't it get punctured?
I think it did. There's a video, right? There's a video
yeah.
of the blimp getting punctured.
So yes, it
Paul
was
Silas.
a free agency acquisition of David Wesley. He was not traded. He started his career in New Jersey, then played 3 seasons in Boston, and then in 1997, David Wesley joins the Charlotte Hornets, and for 5 seasons in Charlotte, scored 13 or more points a game.
And do you guys remember the nickname of the Baron Davis, David Wesley backcourt?
I don't.
Bodyguards.
Oh wow. Okay.
I
dropping some knowledge on us there. No, I don't.
I believe that was one of the earlier Kenny Smith given nicknames. Maybe the only nickname branded.
So Cassell, huge shot there to put Milwaukee. So this is Game 6. Hornets win this. They go to the Eastern Conference. And that's the whole thing, too. We thought we're coming back to Charlotte. Game 6. We played well, played really good defense. We can do this thing. Now they're down 1. I believe about 2 minutes left to play. Mash going to the line here. You saw him miss 2 free throws late in that game in Milwaukee. Let's see what he does here.
Yeah, that's one thing about Mash is he did get to the free throw line quite a bbit. I believe the second year here in Charlotte, if I'm not mistaken, he went there like 6 times a game the regular season. You've seen how many attempts he's had that we've watched just in the fourth quarter alone. You know, that was something he did really well.
Irvin, not that Magic Johnson, getting the lower third there. Mash for his second one. This would put them up. It does, so they're up 1 now. George Karl, I don't love that tie shirt combo there.
Oh, man.
Losing the tie a little bit. All right, Hornets, you know, they're known for their defense this season. All they got to do is play good defense. Hey. Lee Nalon on the floor late. Wow.
Was that Robinson or Nalon?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. That was Eddie Robinson.
E-Rob.
Yeah, Robinson getting
Oh, man, the blow by. David Wesley not holding his ground there to Cassell.
Oh, that's a bad call, I think. Did they get?
I mean, I'd love to say it was, but it's pretty blurry right now. We're still in standard definition, so it's tough to say.
I can tell from here. I had no problem giving that take. Oh, okay, man, so that's Hornets ball. Where's the replay? I'm mad now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, makeup call right there. Offensive foul going the other way.
Is that on the big dog?
This is
on the big dog
time. I mean, this is 2 minutes to go, deciding game. I mean, you got to be counting on Mash, right? He's got to be your go-to guy.
I'm pretty certain Karl has less hair than he did in Game 4.
There's some that came off. Yeah, Mash was the go-to guy in this entire series. I mean, the whole time we've been watching, it's been Mash.
Mash back down. Well, it's just like in that previous rewatch, right? We saw a lot of LJ backing down from the mid-court line. Okay, you can't let Cassell get free like that.
Ball, guys.
What is happening?
A huge bucket.
Cassell.
All right.
I mean,
33 points for Cassell. Yeah, let me pull up the
stats
for this game. 33 points for Cassell. My God.
Are they trying to post up Mash again?
Yeah, they're trying to.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. It's so frustrating to go back and watch.
And bring the double team. Defense. Oh my gosh, no.
It just says get it out of here.
And
was that
M1? Shot clock violation? Oh, yeah.
I think it's before.
There we go. Oh, Paul.
Somebody let Rick Bonnell know. He's got to tweet it.
That's right. Oh, man, how frustrating is this for you guys to just watch them say, we can't do anything besides put the ball in Mash's hands and have him drive and just get hopefully fouled. That's what we're hoping for.
Yeah.
You want the usage percentage for Jamal Mashburn?
Oh, let's hear it.
35%.
45?
35%.
Oh.
Baron Davis, 20%. Still. David Wesley, 20%.
All right. I mean, it was just all ISO. There we go.
Did he pull up? And he was a good three-point shooter for his time.
But you saw Mash pass out of that
Yeah.
Double team was coming, finding the open guy, not something he did in the previous couple of possessions.
All right, all tied
This
up,
is gonna
36
kill you. I mean,
seconds.
this is just a kick.
It's gonna gut us, but we have to watch it.
Oh no!
I got an
Who
idea.
Is that Ray?
I know it's a young
that
Ray
has
Allen,
to be Ray
but
Ray.
don't leave Ray Allen.
That has to be Ray Ray.
It is.
Shuttlesworth.
It seemed like it.
Shuttlesworth. Up 3. Ugh. Brutal. Huge shot. Hornets, not great offense.
Oh yeah, that's what I put the ball in PJ's hand.
Is that Eddie Robinson?
Terrible
Terrible three-point shot.
to match the Ray Allen 3. It's just not going to go your way.
Yeah, giving it to PJ Brown in what looked like maybe a double team and have him pass to Eddie Robinson. That's not the play I want.
Eddie 0 of 1 from 3. That was the only one he attempted.
Why was he in there? Do we know what was going on? What's he doing in crunch time? He hadn't seen any action in the previous two games
they had
here.
to pull. I'm looking to see. Okay, so Eldon's sitting the bench. So they've gone.
Ray Allen stank face. I mean, look at that.
Man, he
just the chewing on the gum, stank looking at you, mean mugging. That was so cool.
Not sure.
David Wesley, bad pull. I mean, they were just rushing it.
They were forced.
Now, see that dunk in today's game. That would have been there would have been op-eds written about that dunk. There would have been so many angry callers. Walker, you would have been fielding them the next day about that dunk.
Call in, was it right?
So that's game that now the series isn't over. They would go back to Milwaukee. We will not watch that game. But
That one's too tough.
But I remember, and you guys tell me if you remember differently, but I remember watching. Let's listen to what Mash says.
Get one. This is a desperate game. We couldn't let them have this one. So Milwaukee struggled. They're great players, man. They're hard to keep down, and they're always in the game. There seems to be nothing like being at home with the fans and Mother's Day and having your mom Helen on the sideline. How special was that? Yeah, it's real special. I'm glad she's up and about and was able to come out here and support the Charlotte Hornets. And
oh man!
Hey, did NBC know that the Hornets lost? Why were they interviewing Mashburn?
I don't know, but I miss him. I miss him so much. I love
That's your boy.
I love some Mashburn. I'll get some stats
Mother's
up here
Day
from that
and
final
Mother's
game.
Day loss in Charlotte. I thought, dropping the confetti after that game was a little even in the loss.
No, it was a great point. By the way, there were more important things happening, but one thing I did notice was at the table, right? At the side table, it seemed like anybody that was affiliated with the Hornets also was rocking the white headband. They were wearing the white headband.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, everybody was
Jack
doing it.
Black, the scores guy, Rick Bonnell.
Yeah, we got to ask Rick next Tuesday if he was rocking the white
I
heady.
hope so. There's no way.
So here's what
if we were thinking, we all would have had white headbands on for this podcast.
That's
Maybe
true.
Next time, find us another one.
Here's what I remember from the end of this game. I remember sitting at home watching it and going, they're going to lose game 7. Like it had just drained all of the hope from my body. And it was a very similar feeling to the game 6 loss against Miami at home when the Hornets had a chance to move on to the second round in 2016. And I just remember leaving the arena and going to Red Eye Diner in Epicenter and gorging on a huge piece of chocolate cake because I was just so sad. Producer Katie and I were just so sad because we were like, that was it, man. That was the chance. Game 7, they are going to murder us. And that's what happened against Milwaukee in Game 7. Let me pull that.
Yeah, and
number
I
up.
don't know if you guys caught it. Maybe you can go back and listen to what Mash had to say at the end of that game again. But I swear he says we got to go down to Milwaukee and get one of these. And that was a Game 7. And I don't know if I heard that wrong, but it just sounded like.
Well, he said can't let him. He said we couldn't let him have this one.
That's what he said.
Okay.
Yeah, and honestly, you look at that. If we're gonna analyze that comment, that's not good heading into the last game of the series. That we couldn't let him have this one. Yeah, you probably couldn't. And just the fact that you admit that, frustrating because it's not like you have just that comment alone. It makes you feel the kind of magnitude of that loss, keeping them from their only Eastern Conference Finals appearance.
So in Game 7, the Bucks would go on to win 104-95. It was a close game. The Hornets up 3 after 1. They tied in the second quarter, so they were up 3 going into the half. But then Milwaukee, huge third quarter, 29-17. The Hornets would not be able to come back in the fourth quarter. They lose 104-95 to end that series. Mashburn was pretty inefficient in that Game 7, 7 of 25 from the floor, 28%, only 1 of 2 from 3. Baron Davis probably had his best game of the series in that Game 7, so it sort of countered that a little bit, 29 points, 6 assists, and 2 steals, but it wasn't enough because You had Ray Allen, 28 points in Game 7. Glenn Robinson, 29 points. Both of them over 55% from the field.
Yeah.
And then Sam Cassell adds an inefficient 17 points, but 13 assists. The big three of Milwaukee just turning it on. And then, of course, Milwaukee going on to face the Allen Iverson-led Sixers. The Sixers win that, and they go on to play the Los Angeles.
It's funny to see big, huge plays in each of the two rewatches that we've done. So it was funny to see the Alonzo Mourning game winner against the Celtics, where I think most people would confuse that with last week. They would put more time on the clock, and then thank God there was a bad pass by Kevin McHale who just didn't throw it early enough because there was a wide open tip in. So that's a huge play for the Hornets escape. And this one, right? Like it's funny because we go to the Courtney Lee shot that helps them win in the series that you compared it to, Doug, just this Heat series a few years back. But how about this one, the Ray Allen shot? I mean, the Ray Allen three, backpedaling back with the mean mug looking right at the Hornets after the Tiger Woods fist bump. That's it. That's what kept the Charlotte Hornets, if we were to dwindle it down to just one play, right? Of course, everyone's important, but just one play, Hornets D up. Ray Allen's wide open in the three. They D up in the paint. Ray Allen wide open for three, nails it, and Hornets don't go to the first ever Eastern Conference Finals. And that was the play I think that sticks out to me in this rewatch.
And they had chances too, right? I mean, you saw the many empty possessions prior to that, and the same thing going back to that last rewatch. Like the Hornets seemed to find ways to not be able to get that to go their way, and then like you said, the other team just made one more play than the Hornets were able to make.
So correction, Derek Coleman only played 2 games in this series before getting injured, and he wasn't playing
Quote,
well
unquote,
at the time.
Right.
Yeah, and he was coming off the bench. I think this was it for Coleman in Charlotte before he moved on to his next venture. But yeah, Mashburn led the way in this series. He averaged. Oh, you're not going to give me an average? Okay, Basketball Reference kind of killing me here, but. Played well in this series, definitely led the team, but did shoot under 40% in the series. David Wesley, Baron Davis adding a lot of assists and pretty efficient play. Again, Baron Davis shot well from 3, 16 of 40. You kind of have to put it in the context of what they were dealing with at the time. But Milwaukee, just simply too much offense for one of the top 5 defenses in the league that season.
You know, in a league that's predicated a lot now on the big three, if you go to Milwaukee's big three, that's pretty good. Back then, to have those 3 players, Sam Cassell, Big Dog, Ray Allen, that's a pretty good big 3 for any team, at least in that day and age. To look at some of the other teams that were pretty good, and they didn't have it. If you were to play a 3-on-3 tournament, right, like Milwaukee, you know, probably as good as a lot of those teams in the NBA at that point. So interesting there when you compare it to the other franchises at that time.
And which makes that 76ers run even more impressive if you think about it, because they did not have a big 3. They had Allen Iverson. And so to go up against that Bucks team and win that series is pretty telling about what was going on back then. But yeah, that Bucks team, I mean, that's what I'm saying. You look at that, the talent they had on the floor, especially able to score the ball in Big Dog and Ray Allen. It's a pretty good team back then.
Any final thoughts before we head out of here?
I loved all of that, even though that was really tough to watch at the end. I loved the court. This was me, right? This is what I grew up watching. So I don't remember the Zoe Johnson Bogues era. When I finally got into basketball, it was watching these teams, these Hornets teams that were competitive, watching Mashburn and Baron Davis and David Wesley. And that was the series that I remember and getting really wholeheartedly into the game of basketball. And so to watch all of that was my nostalgia. Like, that's what I grew up on right there. So even if the Hornets lost, and it was really frustrating to see Ray Allen hit the 3, to see Jamal Mashburn play isolation offense and continue to come up empty-handed, it was still a lot of fun to go back and really watch what got me into the game so much.
Yeah, and to me, I think, guys, you look at the progression of the franchise from that Zoe LJ highlight that we watched last time, which when we go back and watch it, like, they were very, very fortunate, lucky to win that game. Nostalgia puts it in a different place for a lot of people and for us right now. But when you go back and watch it, you know, they tried to lose that game several different ways. And you compare it to the team that we just watched, much more mature, much more well-built team, much more talented across the board. I think it shows you how the Hornets built up over time and where they got to. And when you contrast that with what we're watching right now, right? It just takes time to get there. Obviously a different day and age, but it's cool to see the progression that team made. It's just unfortunate that they weren't able to stay here and kind of keep building on towards that. But yeah, I'm with you, Walker. I mean, this was a much more complete example of the franchise in my eyes, and it's just a shame they ran up against that Bucks team and couldn't do anything else.
I love Walker's point there that we loved these teams even though they broke our hearts, and I think that's what being a Hornets fan, that's kind of what it's been like. I love this team. I love Jamal Mashburn. I love Paul Silas, who is still kind of a face in the organization. He sits behind the bench and his son was the assistant coach there for a while under Steve Clifford, and yeah, we just love this team. So that's what being a Hornets fan is all about. Sometimes and I brought up this point a few weeks ago, and I still think about it, that part of the romance and fun of being a Charlotte Hornets fan, and I know a lot of people that are fans of other teams like San Antonio or Dallas or Miami, teams that have had final success would laugh at this, and I really don't care. But part of I think the fun of being a Hornets fan is that the moment they make an Eastern Conference Finals will be the greatest moment in franchise history. And here's the thing, you get to experience that. The moment that it happens, and it will happen, you get to experience that, hopefully, in your lifetime.
And it will. Hopefully. It's the appropriate way to address it. It really is. It's unfortunate.
Okay. That was our rewatch. Thank you for joining us here on Locked On Live and on Locked On Hornets. We've been looking back at a lot of history on our podcast. So if you are a Hornets fan and you just stumbled upon us here on Locked On Live, check our podcast out. Subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Just search Locked On Hornets. We've had Rick Bonnell on for the past several weeks. He's been digging into some hidden Hornets history. So looking back on some of these games, some of these moments, some of these trades, and giving you some information that you maybe have forgotten or maybe wasn't widely reported at the time. It's been a lot of fun. So we're here every day, Monday through Friday, Locked On Hornets. Check us out. Walker and I and David Walker comes on as well. So until we do this again, thank you so much. And thanks to David and Walker for joining me here. And we will see you on the next rewatch. Maybe we get back together again next Friday and watch something from this season. We shall see. Just pay attention to us on Twitter at Locked On Hornets for updates on that. So enjoyed doing this live with you guys, and we'll see you next time.